Welcome to this explainer. If you've ever stood in line at a cafe, staring up at that massive menu, just feeling completely overwhelmed by all the iced options, well, you're in exactly the right place. Today, we're diving straight into the caffeinated world of chilled coffee, breaking down exactly what's going into your cup.
Okay, let's kick things off with the absolute biggest question on the menu. Is iced coffee actually just cold brew? People toss these terms around interchangeably all the time, assuming, hey, if coffee has ice in it, it's the exact same liquid, right? Well, spoiler alert, the names actually mean completely different things, and the difference, it fundamentally changes the entire chemistry of the beverage you're drinking.
It all really boils down to one epic battle in the brewing process: time versus temperature. Think of it like this. Do you rely on the low and slow passage of hours upon hours to gently pull the flavor from the beans? Or do you use intense, scalding heat to force that flavor out in just minutes? This single decision literally dictates everything about the taste, the acidity, and the texture of your final drink.
So, let's start with the heavyweight champion of the chilled menu, the classic cold brew. It has absolutely skyrocketed in popularity lately, mostly because of its incredibly rich, uniquely refreshing taste. But to understand why it's such a massive favorite, we need to look under the hood at exactly how it's made.
Here is the real kicker. There is absolutely zero hot water involved. None. Instead, you take coarse ground coffee, submerge it completely in cold water, and then you just wait for many, many hours. Because you're depriving the beans of heat, the chemical extraction happens incredibly slowly. It's kind of like a giant puzzle where certain oils and acids that normally release with hot water just stay locked away inside those coffee grounds. And because of that long, slow brewing time, you get a completely different sensory experience. It's naturally smooth, perfectly low in acidity, and carries this mellow, almost chocolate-like flavor. And hey, this isn't just clever marketing, it's literal science. The lack of heat means the bitter elements are never extracted. You're left with a highly drinkable beverage that's poured over ice, and get this, unsweetened by default. It simply doesn't need the sugar to mask any sharp bitterness. Now what's really fascinating is how this robust, smooth foundation acts as the perfect blank canvas for some pretty decadent upgrades, specifically creams and foams. Because cold brew has such a mellow profile with very little acidity, it won't clash with dairy or sweet additions. Instead, it supports them beautifully, creating some of the most famous specialty drinks out there.
Take the vanilla sweet cream variation, for example. It's basically a three-step visual masterpiece. You start with that dark, bold base, gently pour the light cream on top, and then just watch it slowly mix. That third step is where the real magic happens. As that bright, rich cream cascades down into the dark, cold brew, it softens the flavor and adds just the perfect touch of sweetness. The contrast is fantastic, relying entirely on the natural synergy of the ingredients.
Let's take it a step further and look at a seasonal favorite that totally capitalizes on the massive, massive demand for cold foam drinks, the salted caramel cream cold brew. I mean, the cold foam trend has spread like wildfire in the coffee world, and this specific drink is a huge reason why. This version literally crowns our classic cold brew base with a specialized foam. It introduces a rich, lightly salted caramel flavor that elevates the whole drink without making it overly sweet. What's brilliant here is that tiny hint of salt. It perfectly balances the caramel sweetness, giving you a luxurious, rich texture right from the very first sip, without drowning out the actual coffee flavor underneath. Okay, let's pivot for a second and step into the science lab. We're going to look at how injecting gas can completely change the physical texture of our coffee. This is where modern cafe culture gets truly innovative, stepping away from the creams and syrups and relying purely on physics. Enter the nitro cold brew. This is cold brew that is literally infused with nitrogen gas and poured straight from a tap. And notably, it's served completely without ice. Just like a heavy stout beer, this coffee is kept in kegs and pushed through a specialized tap system. The creators intentionally leave the ice out because melting water would completely ruin the delicate cascading effect the nitrogen creates. The result? Absolutely transformative. All those tiny nitrogen bubbles create a silky, velvety mouthfeel that actually tastes naturally sweet and creamy, even though there's absolutely zero milk added. No way, right? But the nitrogen actually tricks your palate. It delivers a full, creamy experience, making it a massive favorite for coffee fans who want a luxurious drink without adding a single calorie from milk or sugar. It's a total texture transformation. Now that we've mastered the cold-steeped family,
we really need to compare them to the hot brewed rivals on the chilled menu. Because remember, just because a coffee is served cold definitely doesn't mean it was made cold. Heat plays a vital role in these next options.
Let's pit cold brew directly against traditional iced coffee. Traditional iced coffee is actually brewed hot from specially selected beans and then chilled. This results in a much brighter, sharper flavor compared to the mellow cold brew. This is that epic time versus temperature battle we talked about earlier, happening right in your cup. Because iced coffee uses hot water for extraction, it pulls out those acidic, bright, and slightly bitter notes. To balance that out, iced coffee often comes lightly sweetened by default. It's a completely different flavor philosophy.
Finally, for everyone out there who absolutely loves the intense punch of pressure-brewed espresso, we have the refreshing Iced Cafe Americano. This is the ultimate go-to for anyone wanting that sharp, robust cafe flavor without waiting around for the long steeping process of a cold brew. Tracing its roots back to the traditional hot Americano, this drink is elegantly simple. It dilutes bold espresso shots with cold water and ice. The story actually goes that American soldiers stationed in Europe during World War II found traditional Italian espresso way too strong, so they diluted it with water to mimic the drip coffee from back home. Take that brilliant concept, apply cold water and ice, and boom, you've got a modern staple. It's the perfect, refreshing option for coffee purists who want to keep that bold, sharp espresso flavor completely intact without adding any milk. The water basically stretches out the espresso, allowing you to sip and really enjoy the nuanced flavors of the beans over time, rather than just knocking it back in one quick gulp. It's bold, uncompromised by dairy, and perfectly ice cold. So what does this all mean for you? Well, the next time you order, you'll know exactly what's happening inside your cup. Are you reaching for something bright, bold, and sharp? Or are you craving something smooth, rich, and velvety? We've decoded the science, from the slow steep of a classic cold brew to the gas-infused magic of nitro, to the hot extracted punch of an iced Americano. The choice comes down entirely to what your palate is craving. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer. What kind of coffee personality are you going to be tomorrow morning?